Hi, this is Muho again. The other day I commented on a video by Brett Warner about Zen and God. And I got quite a number of comments for that video. There's one comment that for some reason doesn't show up in the comment sections, but I got it in my YouTube notifications. One person writes, I wonder what happens at enlightenment. Does our own experience suddenly incorporate all of existence? And our own little container enlarge to incorporate everyone else's? And I thought that's an interesting question that's worth commenting on. When people talk about the connectedness of the whole universe and enlightenment being basically realizing that we're all connected. A metaphor that's often used is the one of the ocean and the waves. Everyone from Thich Nhat Hanh to the Dalai Lama uses the metaphor. I think Brett Warner used that metaphor in one of his books. I've been using it. It's a beautiful metaphor and describes how it feels that the universe must be structured. Each of us is a wave, and the wave itself might not be aware of being part of the same ocean, but that's reality. There's only one true reality, and we all share that one true reality, just like waves are all parts of the same ocean. And so basically the question, if our container expands or that it incorporates all of the other containers, would be similar to the question, when we get enlightenment, does our previous consciousness, that was only the consciousness of the wave, expand so now that we become one with the ocean and are aware not only of that one single wave that we used to be, but of all of the waves and the whole universe? Does our consciousness expand that much? And I do think that the answer is a clear no. Although, of course, there are times during meditation or during other times during your life, either when you follow a spiritual path, or it also happens to people that never got into contact with meditation and spirituality, and still they have this experience that there's something that transcends us, something that must permeate the whole universe, something that's filling the whole universe and that's living through me. I'm part of that. Usually I'm not conscious of that, but at some points during your life you get a very clear and strong feeling that there is this force, if you want to call it a force. There's just something that you can't really put into words well, because a word would make it into something, but this is something that's beyond all the some things. These experiences do exist, and they are very helpful on the way because they give you confidence that you're going the right way. So even though the goal of practice is not enlightenment, if you have such experiences, that helps. Now, does such an experience stand for enlightenment? Is that what enlightenment is all about? And if you have such an experience, does that mean that your consciousness expands through the whole universe, and just like a huge container contains all of the other small containers? I said the answer is no. Why do I think so? I've been practicing Zen for more than 30 years now, 34 years, and 27 of those years I spent mostly in Antaiji. And I've met only a very small number of people who clearly stated that they are enlightened teachers. Very few people I met, and most of them not here at Antaiji. Maybe a handful. At Antaiji, it wouldn't be considered cool to say I'm an enlightened person. So it would be very uncool. And in most of Sotoshu, it's not considered cool to call yourself an enlightened teacher. So therefore, it takes quite some courage to say I'm enlightened. So I respect those who claim to have enlightenment. And I haven't met many people who do that, but there's quite a lot of books written by enlightened teachers, and I read quite a number of them, especially when I was still a teenager. I was fascinated by the idea of enlightenment. I wanted to get it. And in those books, it sounds indeed like how the commenter asking his questions. It sounds like when you get enlightenment, your small consciousness either expands or it dissolves and is replaced by an oceanic consciousness that encompasses everything. So actually, when you get enlightened, it's not your enlightenment anymore. Everything gets enlightened in that moment. The whole universe gets enlightened together with you. It's an enlightenment that you can't claim for yourself, but you share it with every being in the universe. Now that sounds nice, but how come that the other people don't know about that? How come that it's only one person that says on this day, on that hour, in that moment I had this experience, and it's not my experience, it's something that's lit up the whole universe. All of you got enlightenment together with me. How come nobody else knows that? And if that claim was true, that the enlightened master actually became the ocean and was aware of all of the waves, well, you could say, you small waves, you don't know about it because you're still trapped by your small consciousness. I'm the ocean. I encompass everything. All of you share my enlightenment. It's just that you don't realize it yet because you're still trapped in the small wave. I see there's already some kind of discriminated thinking going on there, and usually enlightened people claim that they go beyond discriminated thinking. So it's strange that the enlightened master says, well, I'm the ocean, but you're still the wave. But even let's suppose that's true. An enlightened teacher is like the ocean. A deluded person is like a small wave. Does that mean that if I was enlightened, I would know exactly what each of you had for breakfast? I doubt so. I doubt that an enlightened person would have that knowledge. But then how can he claim that he is one with the universe and he's the ocean? If he's really the ocean, he should know what's going on in each of these little waves. And as far as I know, most or all enlightened people, they don't know nothing about what I had for breakfast. And there's another thing that worries me most. So this point is the most important for me. I met not many enlightened teachers, but a handful that claim to be enlightened. And I read books by enlightened teachers. And when you ask these people how many enlightened people there are on this planet, they usually agree that there's not so many. Maybe 5, maybe 10 at the most, is what many people say. If you ask them, who are these other people? They usually will say, well, my teacher and my teacher's teacher, and if they have any students, then maybe a couple of their students. And then you ask, well, how about that Dharma brother of yours? And often they say, oh, no, 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 he doesn't really have it. I mean, he got some transmission from my teacher, but it was a mistake. My Dharma brother, he didn't get it. And if you ask them about teachers from other traditions, they say, oh, no, 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 no. These guys are not enlightened. Which is strange, unless you think that all of the other enlightened teachers are liars. If you really believe that there's only this small handful of enlightened teachers that speak the truth, and the others are a scam. But if you take all of these enlightened teachers by their word, then it's a strange thing that there are so many oceans in this world and they all claim to be the only ocean. And they say, well, the other ocean, that's not the ocean. I'm the only true ocean. It's a little bit like monotheists arguing about who's believing in the true gods. They should all get along well with each other, you would think, because they all claim there's only one God. There's only one universal God. How come that so many monotheists don't get along with each other? Well, they say, well, if your God, if you believe that your God is the only God, there you must be believing in the false God, because my God is the only God. It has a different name, it has a different form. Your God doesn't have a son, my God has a son, or the son of your God has a different name. Well, 2000 years of Christianity, much more than that of Judaism, a little less in Islam. They're all believing in the same God, but somehow they can't agree on who's believing in the true God. Well, all of them, obviously, if there's such a God in the first place. And the same thing is happening in the spiritual scene. Most or all enlightened people seem to agree that if you're enlightened, you become like the ocean. And there can be only one ocean. I mean, that's the point. With a metaphor, there's many waves. They're all a little different, but they're all connected by one ocean. If the claim that an enlightened people becomes one with the ocean is true, then all enlightened people should share exactly the same consciousness, because they're all the same ocean. They're not only part of the same ocean, they're exactly the same ocean, if that's what they're claiming. Seems to be what they're claiming, but it's obviously nonsense, because they don't even get along with each other. Sometimes you even find enlightened teachers that when they had an experience that was approved of by their master, it was basically me and my master. We are the only two that got it. But then after a couple of years, there is some kind of disagreement even between master and student. They break up. The master kind of says, well, this is not my student anymore. The student says, well, my master didn't get me after all. I'm the only true enlightenment. Even my master or even my student didn't really get it. So I think this is a pretty dangerous claim to say, I'm enlightened, so now my consciousness now is bigger than yours. It's so big that it actually permeates the whole universe. The problem with that claim is the same with saying there's only one God, that's my God, and when anybody else uses the word God, it must be a false God, because it's not my God. Okay, so much for today. If you asked me if at the point of enlightenment our consciousness expands and this little container that we usually live with becomes so big that all of the other small containers are contained in it, then I would say obviously that's nonsense. Although you find such a claim in many books. And even this metaphor that I've been using, that a lot of people have been using, of the ocean and the waves, I don't think it's a bad metaphor. It's just, even this metaphor is something that's happening inside the wave. That's how the wave imagines that it should be. How it looks from the side of the ocean, you can never know. Okay, thank you for your time.